सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धम गीतामृतम महत्। Since Bhagavan Krishna's childhood, he grew up as a cowherd boy. So that aspect of his life is taken and says, Sarvopanishado Gavaha. If all the Upanishads that are there are seen like the cows, Sarvopanishado Gavaha, Dugdho Gopala Nandanaha, and the milkman who is milking those cows is Gopala Nandana, Nanda's son, Gopala Nandana. And if you have ever lived in a village environment, if you have ever tried milking a cow, it is a necessity that the calf must be right next to it for it to be milked. You may have pampered that cow however long that the cow recognizes you. And yet, if the calf is not around, it will kick you by the half. It will not allow you to touch its udders. Many poets have spoken on that aspect, that the vatsalya of that cow flows through the udders as soon as it sees the calf. So the cows which are the Upanishads, who is the calf? Calf is the Partha himself. Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta. It can be understood as his attributes as well. Sudhihi Bhokta. The one who is very intelligent in consuming the knowledge of this Upanishad. Or, after having explained that it is Partha, the rest of us who are listening to that Bhagavad Gita are the Sudhi Bhokta. To such situation was born this Bhagavad Gita by the very hands, by the very mouth of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So such, we have just began. The war was just about to begin. This was the portion of the incident that happened on the first day which Sanjaya refused to reveal to Dhritarashtra. He edited that portion out. Why was there a necessity for him to edit it? Because he clearly understood Dhritarashtra and his thinking, that he might have a strategy, a plan, some crookedness to somehow destabilize Pandavas, and Sanjaya, though he was working for Dhritarashtra, his heart was with the Pandavas. One, because he liked them. Second, because they were the ones that were constantly oppressed. Wrong was done unto them. Everybody knew it. So Sanjaya refused to share this wisdom with him. But when he was caught by the very sharp mind of Dhritarashtra and asked the specific question, he starts narrating the event. Actually, on the battlefield, your son started criticizing, insulting the warrior heads, which was Bhishma, Drona and Krupacharya, and to silence him, to shut his noise, Bhishma started blowing the conch. Was it yesterday? Probably it was yesterday, when I said the oldest warrior was Bhishma's Chachaji. So as soon as I came, two people asked me, who is it? So Bhishma had two Chachas, meaning Shantanu had two brothers. One brother's name was Devapi and the other fellow's name was Bahlika. This Bahlika was a very senior and he chose to participate in this battlefield. So that is his name. So Bahlika, then Bhishma, then Drupada, then Pandava Kaurava, then the fifth generation are the Upa Pandavas and Abhimanyu. So 5 generations participated in this war. Dronacharya had personally raised these children. They were his students. Usually when your college calls for a alumni meeting, 50-year celebration, 60-year celebration, all bald head, pot-bellied, grey-haired, all joined together, and that is for fun. Maybe sometimes you take very good decisions to do some kind of social service project. Good. But here this alumni of Dronacharya was not for pleasantries. They were here to fight each other out in this war. So Dronacharya knew clearly each one of those students. Many of us who have been the teachers, we come to understand the child probably better than the parents. So Dronacharya knew in and out how each one of us behaved, what was their mindset, who was crooked, who was sincere. He knew them all. And to that Dronacharya, this Duryodhana comes with very insinuating, insulting, demeaning words. So Bhishma thought, enough is enough. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vruddha pitamaha simhanadam vinadyochaihi shankham dadmau pratapavan. This Bhishma blew the conch. It actually took all the Pandavas' side by surprise. Technically, if the Kauravas are the ones that have done wrong, and it is the Pandavas that are challenging them on the battlefield, so it is the responsibility to call for the war of the Pandavas and not of the Kauravas. But here, everything reversed. The Pandavas knew whose conch was being played. Like in your apartment, when you are in the evening, You exactly know when your husband or your father's vehicle has just come into the garage. Why? There are so many vehicles, but your vehicle has a distinct sound. Similarly, all conches sound the same, but each one has its own distinct sound. So by this distinct sound, they understood it was Bhishma. Immediately, not to be left behind, the rest of them, they also started blowing their conches, showing their readiness for the war. So in the 13th shloka, repeat after me. Tata shankhascha bhairyascha panavanaka gomukhaha sahasaivaabhyahanyanta sashabdastu mulo bhavat. Tataha shankhascha bhairyascha panavanaka gomukhaha. Different kinds of sound making instruments were pulled out. Tataha, thereafter, after Bhishma started blowing the conch, everybody pulled out their conch. There were some, for the very first day, they had some kinds of drums. In the olden days, the king had drums. They used to call it the Vijaya Bheri. If you have seen the old films, Telugu films, Vijaya Bheri acts. So in the initial stages, there are two drums. That one I am talking about. Bhairya is that Vijaya Bheri. Panavanaka Gomukhaha. The cow horn is sometimes cut. After the animal passes away, they cut the horns and drill a hole through. Sometimes it is used for Abhisheka, Shiva Abhisheka. Sometimes they turn it into a conch like, a bugle like a instrument, which also is blown, which is right there on everybody for accessibility. Sahasaivaabhyahanyanta. Now imagine 4.5 lakh people that were there on that battlefield. Almost everybody had their own kind of an instrument to blow. Somebody blew the conch, somebody were playing on the drums, somebody was on the bullhorn. It is called a bullhorn. As an instrument, they were blowing on it. And those that did not have any instruments, probably I am just visualizing, they had their shields and swords, they started rattling the sword on the shield. I just paused. Even the fan that is moving makes enormous sound. Isn't it? Just about a dozen fans and it makes its own ambient sound. Imagine when 4.5 lakh people are stomping their feet, beating their swords on the shield, blowing the conch, beating on the drums. What kind of sound must have erupted instantly? Sahasaivaabhyahanyanta sashabdaha tumulo bhavat. It was like a roaring, raging sound that erupted on the battlefield. So if I was a movie director, as soon as Bhishma blows the conch, I pan out and show all of them blowing their conch and various other instruments, and suddenly take a long shot, a high long shot, where the battlefield is seen and the surrounding areas, all the birds must have been scared early in the morning, flying away because of this roaring sound. It must have been a deafening sound. Everybody showed their readiness. Or if somebody was not ready, it is a call for action. Bhaiya, युद्ध प्रारंभ हो गया, भागो, reach to your battalion, be in the formation. So the Pandavas also started blowing the conch. So the next two shlokas describe. So please repeat after me. Tata shvetair hayair yukte mahatisyandane sthitau madhavah pandavaschaiva divyau shankhau pradadmatuhu panchajanyam hrishikeshaha devadattam dhananjaya paundram dadmau mahashankham Bhimakarmavrukodaraha. Bhagavan Krishna, who was the charioteer, standing on that chariot. How was that chariot? Tataha shvetaihi hayaihi yukte. There were beautiful white horses. Shveta Ashwa, Haya. Therefore, one of the deities that we worship is called Hayagriva, the one who has the horse-like face. Hayagrivam upasmahe. Haya means a horse or Ashwa. What was the color? Shvetaihi. The horses were white in color. How many were there? There were 4 of them. So in those days, the most efficient vehicle had literally 4 horsepower. Today what we ride and drive is of a different capacity, thousands of capacity. In those days, at least Krishna's chariot was 4 horsepower. It was yoked to 4 horses. Shaibhya, Sugriva, Megha Pushpa and Balahaka. These were the names of the Ashwa. Shvetaihi, Hayaihi, Yukte, Mahatis Yandane Sthitau. That Ratha was looking glorious. Now standing on that, Madhavaha, Pandavaha, Chaiva. Pandavaha here meaning Arjuna. Both of them stood, pulled out their individual conches and started blowing hard on that conch. Mahatis Yandane Sthitau, Madhava Pandavaschaiva, Divyau Shankhau Pradhatmatuhu. What were the conches that they all played? So it is said, Panchajanyam Hrishikeshaha. The sound that was, the conch that was used by Bhagavan Krishna, a very beautiful description. It looked quite handy, a small one. It was pink in color. His conch was pink in color. And it was named Panchajanya. Panchajanya, that which is born out of the 5 elements. That which was born out of the 5 elements, it made a majestic sound. Panchajanyam Hrishikeshaha. Dhananjaya, Arjuna, see his name Dhananjaya, wherever he went for whichever endeavor, he always was a winner. he was always a successful person. Dhanancha Jayancha. He used to bring in lot of wealth and victory to the Pandavas. So much that it had become a trend that he was named as Dhananjaya. So Dhananjaya, Pandava, the Arjuna, his conch name was Devadatta. Devadatta, that which is blessed by Bhagavan, given by Bhagavan, Devadatta. Poundram Dhadmau Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha. Bhima, he has got an adjective describing him. Vrikodaraha. Vrikodaraha, Udara means stomach. Vrika is like a wolf. Wolf stomach. Now the moment we hear it as wolf stomach, in today's parlance we lose the idea. Bhima was a tall, gigantic, muscular person. And he loved to eat. His passion was cooking. And he loved to eat. So one might imagine that he must be also quite a big, large belly. This is Vrikodaraha. So if you go to the gym, so there you have the posters of all these bodybuilders. So they say the technical word is used that the body shape is like a V shape. Where the chest is full, but it tapers down to the abdomen. Vrikodaraha in today's parlance would mean somebody who had the abs, six-pack abs, muscular. So he blew the big Shankha. Bhima there was no subtlety around him. See, Bhagavan Krishna carried a beautiful conch which was small in size. His was Mahashankha, it was huge in size. Poundram, it was named as Poundra. Poundra also means that which pulverizes, powders things. Maybe powder came from Poundra, to pulverize things. The sound made by that Mahashankha was so loud that just by hearing that sound, people's courage would be shattered. Poundram Dadhmau Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha. See the sequence. It did not go with Yudhishthira's conch. First Bhagavan Krishna, then Arjuna, then Bhima, then comes the rest of them. So the 17th and 18th shloka. Sorry, 16th and 17th shloka. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakulas Sahadevascha Sughoshamani Pushpakau Kasyascha Parameshvasaha Shikhandi cha Maharathaha Drishtadyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha. Kunti Putraha Yudhishthiraha. Yudhishthira, Kunti's son, he blew the conch and its name was Ananta Vijaya. Many people ask for good new kind of names. Here is the list. Ananta Vijaya. Ananta Vijaya, that who had constant, unending lists of victories in life. Ananta Vijayam. Nakulaha Sahadevaha. Nakula and Sahadeva, their conches were named Sughosha Mani Pushpaka. Sughosha, that which made loud sound. Mani Pushpaka, that which was very, very articulately designed. Mani Pushpaka. Kashi Raja, Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Virata, Satyaki, all these great warriors, Aparajitaha, great warriors, who knew only victory in their battlefields, they also started blowing their individual conches. Drishtadyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajita. Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvashah Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahuhu Shankhan Dadmuh Prathak Prathak. If you look at all the nomenclature, all the names, you would find that most of them are referred as that mother's son. In Hindi they say Maa ka Ladla. No, it is not just Ladla. It is the courageous sons of these different mothers. Because in psychology they say that if a child has to be groomed into a responsible individual, the highest responsibility is on the mothers. Father is literally a father figure. But the mothers is what goes into the details to raise the child. Therefore, they are proudly recognized by their mother's names. Kunti Putraha, Parthaha, all these are the mother's name. Drupadaha, Draupadeyascha. Draupadi's children were recognized as Draupadeya. Saubhadra, Subhadra's son, Abhimanyu. All these Bahubalis, Bahubalis, Shankhan Dadmuh Prathak Prathak, their individual conches they started blowing. Now, when that kind of sound erupted, how was it? The way Sanjaya describes is more interesting. He says, now remember, who is he telling all of this to? To Dhritarashtra. But he is trying to poke at Dhritarashtra. On what day was he giving this information to Dhritarashtra? On the 10th day, Dasve din. So on the 10th day, when he was giving this information, he pokes at Dhritarashtra that if at all there is somebody that can even to this day pull the war aside and put these two parties to an agreement, it was only Dhritarashtra who could do it. So Sanjaya is poking at the conscience of Dhritarashtra. The way he narrates about the sound. He says, Saghosho dhartarashtranam Hridayani vyadarayat Nabhascha prativin chaiva Tumulo vyanunadayan Ghoshaha, that roaring sound of the battlefield, as soon as it erupted. I mean, he could have described it any which way, but he chooses to use the following sentence. He says, Hridayani Vyadarayat. It gave a trembling shiver to who? Dhartarashtranam. It's a royal poke. You think that your children are qualified. Just by hearing the sound, they were trembling in their rathas. And who is he saying it to? Dhritarashtra Swayam. He could have said Duryodhana ityadi. But he chooses to use Dhartarashtrana. Your children were trembling in fear just by hearing the sound of this conch sound that was being made. Nabhascha prithivim chaiva. Nabha, the skies. Prithvi, the entire earth. Tumulo vyanunadayan. It appeared as though the earth was shivering for a moment. You know, the sound waves, when it goes to a certain frequency, it can shatter material. In the physics labs, when you take a tuning fork and ring the tuning fork and place it on the material, especially glass, the frequency of the tuning fork, when it matches that material, it starts at a molecular level, it starts vibrating, and then it cannot contain that energy and it shatters. That is the power of the sound. Imagine 4.5 lakh people making that kind of a sound. The earth must have been really trembling, shivering with that sound. Nabhascha. Even the skies were as though trembling. Nabhascha prithivim chaiva. Tumulaha shivered suddenly because of this sound. Now, as this was happening, as I described in the beginning, amongst the Pandavas, who is the thinker? Arjuna was the thinker, who independently had this pattern of thinking. Now Arjuna starts thinking. What does he think? Wait a second. Isn't it our war to call for the war? We should have been challenging the Kauravas. How come they do all the wrong, they do all the oppressive things for years at end, for these many decades, and they blow the conch to call for the war? And if I am not wrong, it was my grandfather who started it. Something doesn't seem right. So that emotion is being explained in the next sloka. Atha vyavasthitan drishtva dhartarashtran kapidhvajaha pravritte shastra sampate dhanurudyamya pandavaha. Atha vyavasthitan dhartarashtran drishtva. Seeing the opposite side, all the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's children, Kapidhvaja started thinking thus. Many of us assume that Hanumanji was on the flag of Arjuna. But when you look at the details, it was a little different. It was not that Hanumanji was on the flag of Arjuna's chariot, but instead it was Hanumanji sitting holding the flag. Kapidhvaja, that chariot on whom there was Hanumanji, Kapi, sitting holding a dhvaja. There is a later reference after the 18 days war is done. Bhagavan Krishna gives an instruction to Arjuna. He says, jump out of the chariot immediately. So 3 people jumped. One was Bhagavan Krishna himself, Arjuna, and Hanumanji from the top, he also jumped. As soon as they jumped, the chariot is lit on fire. Then Bhagavan explains that all the different divyastras that different warriors had used against you, I had held that energy down and the chariot was taking all that energy. Now that the war has come to an end, that energy has to have a release. Therefore, the chariot is burning. While in the backdrop the chariot is burning, Hanumanji has a dialogue with Krishna. He says, Bhagavan, all these 18 days I had taken a very ugra rupa sitting on the chariot. Unintentionally, the conversation that you had with Arjuna, I overheard. See, the Bhagavad Gita, while it was being spoken, Vyasa Bhagavan, he heard it, Sanjaya heard it, Arjuna heard it. Who was the other one? Hanumanji heard it. So he says, I heard it, but I heard it unintentionally without your permission. Look at the standard of dharma in those days. If today it was to happen and somebody were to point at us, "Kyo sun rahe ho?" we would have immediately retorted back saying, "You both are speaking, you should be careful. My ears are open. That is how God has created. If I hear it, it is not my problem, it is your problem." Isn't that the kind of logic that we use these days? When 2 people are conversing, if the third one uninvited is hearing upon it, it was considered a wrong practice. You should have walked away, respecting the privacy of those 2 who are speaking. But he was given a task to sit on the chariot. So then Hanumanji says, Bhagavan, I have unintentionally, without your permission, heard it. Therefore, as a prayaschitta, what tapas should I do? Then Bhagavan, it seems, said to Hanumanji, write the commentary on Bhagavad Gita. So the first commentary written ever is the commentary of Hanumanji on Bhagavad Gita. In Banaras Hindu University, I think there is a copy. It is called Paishachika Gita, the commentary's name. Why is it called Paishachika Gita? The ugra rupa that Hanumanji had taken on that chariot was like anybody seeing it would feel terrorized, and he would appear as though he was like a pishacha. Pishacha waving the flag and roaring on the top of it. So Kapidhvaja, the painters may have imagined that it is the chariot, on the chariot there is a flag, on the flag there is a print of Hanumanji. ठीक है? It is the imagination, right? A good imagination. But the actuality was, Hanumanji was himself sitting on the chariot holding the flag. Kapit Dhvajaha. Athavyavasthitan. Thus the trembling Dhritarashtra's children seen by Arjuna, he started thinking, and what did he do? Pravritte shastra sampate dhanuhu udyamya pandavaha. He picked up his bows and the bow and arrows, and he spoke to Bhagavan thus. What did he say? Hrishikesham tada vakyam idamaha mahipate. Hrishikesham tada vakyam idam aha he mahipate. O Raja Dhritarashtra, unto Hrishikesha, unto Bhagavan Krishna, this Arjuna spoke thus. What did he speak? Arjuna vacha senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapaya mechuta. How many of you have an introduction into Sanskritam? Very good. The tenses, there are 10 tenses. Lat lakar, lot lakar, lang lakar. Have you heard of it? These are the lakaras, which the dhatu, the verb, goes into to describe whether it is the present tense or the past tense or the present continuous tense or an order. So here the language used is Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye He Achyuta Ratham Sthapaya. He Achyuta, He Krishna, between the two armies, take my chariot instantly and ride me to that center point. Implying that I can have a visual clarity at the arrangement of the Kauravas, just so as to see who has the audacity to blow their conch and challenge us for the war, having committed all the kinds of crimes. The righteousness in Arjuna was on fire. Therefore, he forgot that he was speaking to Bhagavan Krishna. And what does he say? Like he would have given out an order to a charioteer, he says, Gadi nikal. See, if it was your father driving, how would you address? Pitaji, Gadi nikale. Right? With respect. The driver may be, the role that he is playing may be a driver. But his status was different. Arjuna, in that fired moment, that who dare challenge me on this war, forgets that it is Krishna standing and says, Chal gadi nikal, ratham sthapaya me chuta. Bhagavan Krishna must have turned, given him a glance with a smile. And must have said, Jisha, you want the chariot? Right in the middle? Here we go. And he started running the chariot. Now again visualize. How big was the Kaurava army? 11 Akshohinis. So the interpretation of the middle, see, in the 7 Akshohinis of the Pandava army, Arjuna might be in one of the ends. He could take the chariot and say, that army and this army, this is the middle. But where does he take? he takes it to the middle of the 11 Akshohini Sainya, right in front. Between these two armies, middle. That army's length and breadth, the middle. So he took both coordinates and took him there. Now Sanjaya explains this. He says, Sanjaya Vacha. No, have we done the 22nd and 23rd? No. So the 22nd and 23rd. Yavadetan niriksheham Yodhukaman avasthitan Kairmaya sahayodhavyam Asmin rana samudyame Yotsyamanan aveksheham Yayetetra samagataha Dhartarashtrasya durbuddhehe Yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. He says, Nirikshe aham, I want to investigate. Yavadetan yodhukaman avasthitan. I want to check who has the courage to stand and blow the conch, inviting us for the war. Who dare do this mistake? I would like to investigate. Kairmaya sahayodhavyam asmin rana samudyame. Don't they know that it is this Arjuna who is standing on this battlefield? Understand, let me put it at a different example for us to grasp the situation. You are all familiar with cricket? Yes, no? Thank you. Who is called the god of cricket? The short curly haired fellow. Though he is short, he is respected worldwide. If he were coming onto the pitch to bat and from the crowd that is watching, that has come to watch that game, if they were heckling and ridiculing that Sachin, it would sound very ridiculous. Who are you trying to heckle? Who are you trying to ridicule? I watched, I think, one match of the IPL. That Dhoni, when he comes as the CSK player, up until then there is one level of sounds and masti that is happening. The moment that fellow steps in, it is like a roaring environment. Like everybody goes crazy. Right? Because they understand, they recognize who is come to the middle of the pitch to bat. Now, if this example is understood, in those days, Arjuna's status was of that kind, that caliber. In fact, one of the names of Arjuna is Parantapa. That his mere presence on the battlefield, the enemies would be roasted. Tapayati paran iti. So he has that a little bit of arrogance. You can call it intellectual arrogance. That don't they know that it is me who is there on the battlefield? How dare their audacity to challenge me for the battlefield having done a wrong? Kair maya sahayodhavyam. Who has the courage to stand in front of me in this war? एक बार देख तो लूं कौन है वो? So his righteousness was fired up. Kairmaya sahayodhavyam asmin rana samudyame yotsyamanana veksheham ya yete atra samagataha. I know all of us have come here only for the purpose of this war, but still there is some protocol, still there is some kind of a dharma. It must have been, if two people are talking and you have to report that which they are talking to another person, your third person who is listening to it, and you have to report that to another person, and whatever these people are talking is about that person, how would you present it? Normally you wouldn't want things to heat up and escalate into a misunderstanding. So even if they have used criticizing words, you will mellow it down. What does Sanjaya choose to do? He uses this opportunity to poke Dhritarashtra's consciousness again, his conscience again he keeps poking. He says, पता है क्या बोला था उसने? Dhartarashtrasya durbuddhehe. It is the durbuddhi, crookedness of the children of Dhritarashtra. The moment you translate it into English, the meaning and the fun of it is gone. When you say Dhartarashtrasya, he could have said Kauravasya. But instead he chose to say Dhartarashtrasya, meaning that the crookedness is not just in the children. Where would the apple fall? Because the father is equally crooked. Dhartarashtrasya durbuddhehe. They have brought it on their fate to this war which they could have avoided. Yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. Sanjaya having said this, he said, मैंने नहीं, ऐसा अर्जुन ने बोला. Dhartarashtrasya durbuddhehe yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. Now Sanjaya is giving, various emotions have to be expressed, so he is giving it in his words as to what was transpiring between Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna after Arjuna gave this order to Bhagavan Krishna. Sanjaya uvacha eva mukto hrishikeshaha gudakeshena bharata senayorubhayor madhye स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमम् भीष्मद्रोणप्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरूनिति. Since many of you seem to be well versed in chanting, can I make slight minute corrections? Whenever, like here for the example, Sarvesham cha mahikshitam. So Sarvesham, there is a nasal sound, right? Followed by cha. So in the Varnamala, Akshara Varnamala, after the vowels are done, a to aha, then there are 5 vargas: kavarga, chavarga, tavarga, tavarga, pavarga. And in each varga there is 5 syllables: ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. Most of us, with the influence of Hindi, the last syllables in each varga, which is the nasal sound, we seldom use it. For everything there is one dot, bindi. But unlike Hindi, here, actually even in Hindi this has to be followed. For us to understand this, when I write a spelling, G-A-N-G-A, how do you pronounce it? In Hindi or Sanskritam, when you write it, Ga, the Anuswara, and then Ga. Would you pronounce it as Gamga? You will not, right? Chanchala, when you write it, you don't pronounce it as Chamchala. Though it is the Anuswara, the bindi there, you would pronounce it as Chanchala. There is a rule for it. In Sanskritam, the pronunciation, Siksha, the rule is, whenever the Anunasika ends and followed by whichever syllable, the Anunasika takes that syllable varga's last Anuswara sound. Therefore, ka, kha, ga, ga, nga, therefore, when you say Ganga, it is not Gamga, it is not Ganaga, it is Ganga, Unga. It is not Chamchala, it is Chanchala, Uncha. Cha, 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 cha. People pronounce that for lack of better sound, ini, I don't know what all pronunciations. So here, Sarvesham, the Anuswara, is followed by Cha. So therefore, it should sound as though it is coming from the nasal sound of the Cha varga. Sarveshan, Sarveshan Cha Mahikshitam. It is not Sarvesham Cha Mahikshitam. Technically it would sound wrong. Was I able to explain it? समझ में आया? भीष्म द्रोण प्रमुखतः सर्वेषांच महीक्षिताम्. Now this Sanjaya reports to Dhritarashtra saying, Eva muktva hrishikeshaha gudakeshena bharata. Having thus been instructed by Gudakesha, the names that are used is so beautiful. I mean, this word can be interpreted in 2 ways. One, Gudakesha. Second, Gudaka Isha. And the meaning changes. Gudakesha means the one who has long, dark, curly hair. हिंदी में बोलूं तो मजा आएगा. काले घने गुंगराले लंबे बाल. As though I am giving an advertisement for a shampoo or a oil company, hair oil company. Gudakesha. Thick, long, curly, dark hair. Even at that age, without the necessity for applying any other extra color, he had dark hair. Gudakesha. But here it is more of the second meaning. Gudaka Isha. The one who had mastered night. it could mean 2-3 things. Too appropriate here is the one who has mastered his sleep, control on his sleep. There are some people that I know. There is a certain time crossing which you may be talking the most interesting thing. बत्ती बंद हो जाती है उनकी. I don't know, they have that internal clock. I talk of anyway, my own mother. She'll quickly eat food by 8 o'clock, by 8:30 it is done. By 9, whoever speaking, whatever, doesn't matter. Time off. Similarly, those who take a nap in the afternoon, that 2:30, 3:30 time frame, there is no control on the sleep. If you have to compulsorily work at that particular point of time, then 2-3 chai to wake you up, to keep you awake. Arjuna had no problem. Gudaka Isha, the one who had won over his sleep. Second, he could battle even in darkness, because he had mastered the art of fighting or shooting the arrows even in dark, without having the night vision goggles. In those days, probably it was not necessary. This is called Shabda Bheri. There is one more reference of somebody who had this capacity of Shabda Bheri. It ends up drawing a curse upon himself because of his Shabda Bheri. Do you know who I am referring about? Dasharatha, Shravan Kumar. He thought it was an animal trying to drink water while he was trying to fill his pitcher. The sound looked similar. He didn't know exactly where the animal was or what he thought of as an animal. He shot based on the sound. That is called Shabda Bheri. Because of that Shabda Bheri, he had mastered the night. That fearlessly he could fight even at night. Gudakesha. Eva muktva hrishikesha gudakeshena bharata. This Arjuna instructed Bhagavan Krishna to take his chariot right into the middle of that two battling forces. Senayoho ubhayoho madhye sthapayitva rathottamam. Bhagavan Krishna took it and placed it right in the middle, where Krishna strategically chose to take this chariot right at that midpoint where Arjuna had a clear vision of who? Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha Sarveshancha Mahikshitam. That he could clearly see that it was Bhishma, Drona and Kripacharya. Middle he could have taken anywhere, Krishna. He chose to take it right there. Why? Because the earlier day evening, something had triggered in Arjuna's mind because of Sanjaya's message, which he brought for Dhritarashtra. Bhagavan Krishna could see through clearly that this Arjuna now on the battlefield is not the same Arjuna who would have been more vigorous. It looks a little diluted format of Arjuna. I am not talking of mind reading. See, those who are your near ones and dear ones, your own family, if they are not feeling well, if they feel very low, if they feel very sad, they have not shared with you that they are feeling sad, but just by looking at them, don't you identify? क्या हुआ? कुछ तो हुआ है, बैठ, बता. नहीं कुछ नहीं, बता. They're hiding something and you know that they are hiding it. They are going through something, you know that they are going through something just by looking at them. Similarly, Bhagavan Krishna had noted it down that this fellow is completely covered, wrapped up with the concept that was given by Dhritarashtra through Sanjaya. And that is restraining his energy and forces. He is not acting like himself. So Bhagavan Krishna thought, good Arjuna, that you asked me to take the chariot right into the middle. Now I have the opportunity to puncture that abscess which started yesterday. So sometimes there is thode punsi ho jate hain. Abscess that happens. When you go to the doctor, they may not immediately treat it. They say, come after 2 days. And then they say, now I can clearly puncture it so that all the pus that is there can be drained out. So Bhagavan Krishna also waited on the right opportune moment. Yesterday evening was not the right time. He said, now is the right time. And to trigger that emotion, Bhagavan Krishna took him straight in front of Bhishma, Drona, Krupacharya. Bhishma, Drona, Pramukhatah, Sarveshancha Mahikshita. Uvacha Partha Pashyetan, Samavetan Kurun iti. He said, hey Partha, you wanted to see who those people with such audacity to challenge you for the war. Here they are. Bhishma, Drona, Krupacharya. लो, देख लो, मजा कर लो. As soon as he saw these three stalwarts of his life, that who he had highest reverence for, highest respect for, and deep love for, as soon as Bhagavan Krishna intentionally, purposefully brought Arjuna right in front of them, something deep inside of Arjuna snapped. It triggered. Hota na? It happens to us also. To the best of us, sometimes there are certain kind of people when we face them. Up until then we were fine. We were joking, we were laughing, we were in a pleasant state. As soon as we see that person, एकदम चिड़ मच जाता है. For Arjuna, it was on the other end of the spectrum. Something triggered in him, he snapped. So he says, Sanjaya says, तत्रा पश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थः पितॄनथ पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा स्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव सेनयोरुभयोरपि तान् समीक्ष स कौन्तेयः सर्वान् बन्धूनवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविष्टः विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत्. तत्र सः अपश्यत्. Arjuna saw this. Sthitan, all of them who were standing there on the battlefield. Who are they? पितॄन् अथ पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा. Suddenly it dawned upon him, as soon as he saw on both sides, अरे ये सब तो अपने ही हैं. All these people are our own people. Now who is this Arjuna? How many years of Vanavasa? 12 years. How many years of Ajnatavasa? 1 year. Total 30. In most of the Vanavasas, 12 years, the Pandavas along with Draupadi were walking through various parts of the forest, Aranya. Where was Arjuna? He would now and then take a break, go deep into the forest and do specific tapasya, this tapascharya, for acquiring various kinds of astra and shastra. When you go to different Sthala Puranas, there are different temples that say this is where Arjuna did tapas. This is where he had the fight with Bhagavan Shiva before he gave him Pashupatastra. All through the 12 years, what was he specializing in? Using that opportune moment, instead of repenting that they are not there in the kingdom, they have lost the kingdom, he was busy acquiring various kinds of astra shastra, directly divine weapons from various gods and goddesses. He acquired astra shastra. What was the purpose of all of this? See, many children, they learn different kinds of instruments or dance, Kathak, Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi. After a certain age, after they go to college, most of them, almost all of them, in their houses, in the living room, whichever instrument that they have learnt, say it is a veena. So in an acrylic box, the veena is displayed, photos on one side, different certificates and medals and accolades on the other side. हम भी कभी वीणा बजाते थे, हम भी कभी डांस किया करते थे. We used to dance. That is the proof. The whole wall is filled with all of these accolades that I have won. Was Arjuna planning to get all this Divya Astra Shastra so that when he goes back and has his own palace, on the palace wall he would display Pashupatastra, Indrastra, Agni Astra, to display all of them? He was very clear when Yudhishthira asked him, why are you taking this extra effort in doing all this tapas? He says, you may out of your goodness believe and trust the Kauravas. I do not trust them. I would want to be prepared and not use these weapons rather than be not prepared and have to face those Kauravas, because they have consistently oppressed us, taken our rights and thrown us aside. If after these 13 years there was a situation where I had to challenge them, I should have enough power and courage based on that power to challenge them. This was that Arjuna of the Pandavas who specifically used that time to prepare for this kind of situation. As soon as he saw Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha, he saw those who were at the age of his father, those who were at the age of his grandfather, those who were his teachers, Acharyan, Matulan, those who were belonging from his mother's side of relations, Matulan, Bhratrun, those who were like his brothers or his cousins, Putran, those who were his children or the age of his children, Pautran, those who were the age of his grandchildren. Shvashuran, those who are from the in-law sides. Suhridaschaiva, those who were friends. He saw on both sides. Senayoho, ubhayoho api. That Arjuna who was physically, mentally prepared for this war, singularly had amassed a lot of weapons. In today's terminology, probably we would have called them WMD, weapons of mass destruction. Because all the Brahmastra, the Pashupatastra were like that. So that Arjuna who prepared for this, after seeing Sarvan Bandhun Avasthitan, seeing all his own people, Sanjaya is, he shows his favoritism and he says, Kripaya Paraya Vishtaha. He was overwhelmed with extreme amount of compassion. There is a saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. In fact, if as a parent, as a responsible one, I have not disciplined the child, I have wrongly applied my compassion, because that child will become a problem for the entire society. So therefore, all mothers here, when you scold your children, you have one dialogue. See, when I was young, I used to see all parents scold their children. What amazed me was, everybody had the same dialogue. So I used to assume that as soon as people get married, they go to a crash course. बच्चों को गाली कैसे देना है, बच्चों को कैसे डांटना है. So after scolding, what would every parent tell the child? We are not your enemy. We are scolding you only for your welfare, your well-being. Do you use this dialogue as a parent? Yes? If the parent is not taking serious note of the discipline issues of the child, in the name of love, in the name of compassion, you are actually ruining that child's welfare and future. Isn't it? Sun lo. Where there should be compassion, there should be that application. Wrong application of compassion is detrimental for you as well as to that who you are responsible for. I don't remember which Shakespearean novel where he says, I am appearing cruel only out of love. Hamlet? I am cruel only out of love. At that moment when you are trying to discipline, it appears cruel. But that is the right way of expressing that love at that moment. Pampering at that moment is not the right way of expression of that compassion, of that love. What is Arjuna's situation? It all triggers because of his wrong placement of his compassion and love. Therefore, Sanjay is saying, Kripaya paraya vishtaha. Completely drowning in excessive amount of, overwhelming amount of kripa, compassion. It caused him Vishidantam. Vishidantam, almost like sorrowful, crying. Wrongly placed emotions always lead to this kind of rock and roll in our life. Wherever the compassion has to be applied, it has to be. But the mode of that compassion to be applied has to be different. When you go to a pediatrician and the pediatrician has to give an injection to your child because that is the what do you call those 6 months, 3 months vaccination you have to give, and the child looks so cute, so happy unto themselves, innocent. Now this fellow's job is to daily prick a pain in their shoulder. Kripaya paraya vishtaha. How do you expect me to prick an innocent, such beautiful looking cute child? You are useless, you cannot do that job. That is not the way to show compassion. If you truly are compassionate to that child, you should muster up enough courage, vaccinate so that their future is better. But overwhelmed with his own emotion, Arjuna loses sight of all the rigorous preparation that he has done and all the 80 years worth anyaya that has happened unto not just Pandavas, the entire society that was going through because of the Kauravas. He has forgotten all of it. In that forgetfulness, overwhelmed with his emotions and sorrow, Arjuna starts speaking. See, in the last confession of Arjuna in the 18th chapter, when Bhagavan asks him, "Hey Arjuna, did you get the message that I intend to give through this 700 shlokas?" Arjuna himself in his very own words says at that time, "Nashto mohaha smritihi labdha." I have regained my memory. In this overwhelming kripa, what has happened? He has forgotten all those different things that have taken place, for which he took a standpoint to fight this out and re-establish dharma, that he has forgotten. In that forgetfulness, Arjuna starts opening his heart, those things that were bothering him from yesterday evening when he saw Sanjaya. When he heard from Sanjaya, what did Sanjaya say? Many people ask. The exact words that Arjuna is going to repeat from the 28th shloka are the very words that were spoken by Sanjaya as the message of Dhritarashtra. Verbatim. Control X, Control V. वहां से कट किया, यहां पे कॉपी किया, पेस्ट किया. He plagiarized Dhritarashtra's words, associated himself with it, and thought it was his emotion. Got carried away. So we'll see that tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kasyat Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.